I even had voice.
Motherfucker! Motherfucker! Oh my god.
You didn't tell us when you recorded.
I thought you weren't gonna say anything. And... What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I try my best not to talk.
What is wrong with you?
Something that's wrong with America. Can't keep their fucking mouth shut.
Holy shit, man. This is going on YouTube again. Oh my god.
When I was 8, I had a friend named Dennis. He lived not too far from me in a tall orange house. You could tell by looking at his home. It was very old. The siding had started to become feeble and worn in some areas. The windows were always dark, no matter what time of day it was. It had an ominous presence. When I went over to play or spend the night, I always had a feeling that someone was watching me. The air always seems thick with an invisible presence. I couldn't see how someone could live with that sensation. But Dennis seemed to have gotten used to it. It was a Saturday night, and we were eating dinner at his table. After a long day of playing outside, his parents were in the living room watching television. They didn't want to intrude on our visit. They had told us, so we sat there together. Neither of us had spoken since we sat down, both exhausted, so eating was a higher priority than conversation at the moment. After a few moments, he broke the silence. "Do you want to stay the night tonight?" No was the first thing that jumped into my mind, but I didn't say it. Whenever I stayed the night, I always had trouble sleeping. I didn't like being here for too long, even if he was my best friend. "Please?" he asked. His eyes had fear hidden in them. I noticed it. "I don't know. I think I have things to do tomorrow," I lied. "Please, I need someone else in my room with me. There's something I need you to help me with." "What is it?" He seemed hesitant to tell me. A slight frown appeared on his face. "I'll tell you if you promise not to stay. Promise that you'll stay. Will you?" I didn't want to. Not one bit. But I could tell by the way he was looking at me that he needed me. I nodded my head. He didn't smile afterwards. The frown and the fear stayed plastered on his pale face. He set up a small area on the floor for me to sleep. He peeked outside to see if his parents were out of earshot. And they were. After that, he closed the door and looked at me. "A hand," he said. "There's a hand that comes out of the wall at night. It pulls off my blankets and tries to grab my legs. I don't know what time it comes, but it always does. For about a week now. I need you here to see for yourself. I want to make sure I'm not dreaming or something." I was freaked out, but I understood why he wanted me there. I didn't say anything. I only nodded my head. "Just stay with me and wait," he said. He got into his bed. I got on the floor. We both laid there waiting. My eyes kept fixed on the wall above his nightlight, and I was sure he was doing the same thing. The invisible's eyes seemed to be watching me furiously now, like I wasn't welcome. I was scolding myself in my mind for staying. After about 2 weeks, 2 hours, it felt like many more. I saw something dark start creeping out of the wall. It was long, rotten arm with long fingers that had blackened nails. It only came out of the wall up to the elbow and grabbed a hold of the blankets on Dennis' bed. The blanket slowly rolled off his body and fell off the bed. He whimpered when the blanket landed on the floor. Then the hand started caressing his bare ankle, trying to seduce him. Dennis pulled it away from the hand and started to cry. At this point I was terrified. I could feel my heart beating rapidly in my temples. My palms were slimy with sweat. But even though my fear, I stood up, grabbed my pillow, was the closest thing to me, and started hitting the arm with it. It quickly drew back into the wall, as if the wall was just a puddle of water. Dennis stopped crying. His mouth was wide open, and was staring at me. What was all that came out of my mouth? I saw his eyes quickly bolt back to the wall, and a small shriek escaped from him. I turned, and now there was a rotten face sticking out, watching me with withered eyes. Its mouth curled open with a hideous smile, showing off its black teeth. The pillow fell out of my hand, and I stumbled backwards. A rotten leg started to appear, coming out of the wall. Suddenly Dennis stood up and stabbed it in the eye with a pencil he kept on the nightstand. The monster fell backwards into the wall and shrieked. Tiny droplets of blood spilled on the floor, staining the wood. We looked at each other, both terrified. We sat in the corner the rest of the night, never taking our eyes off the wall. That was the last time I ever stepped foot in that house. He told his parents about everything that happened the next day. His parents were really understanding and believed the story. They left not long after to live with Dennis's grandparents about 100 miles away. They bought a new house while they were there. The house is still there. It's been empty ever since, but sometimes I drive by and look at that tall, decayed orange building. Feeling of being watched will always crawls over me, even when I'm in my car at a safe distance, and sometimes when looking at the dark window, I can see one white speck in the darkness watching me.